Welcome to the debate. Our material today covers the really tragic case of Razia Malik. She was scammed out of £5,000 by a woman named Ghazala Din, who presented it all as a halal, Sharia-compliant property investment. It's a case that really highlights how, deep personal vulnerability can be exploited when religious and social trust are used as weapons.
Absolutely.
So, the central question for us is this: should we define this crime primarily as a sophisticated financial fraud, looking at the investment structure, or is it better understood as an act of profound, targeted ethical betrayal, focusing on the exploitation of vulnerability and community ties? Now, I'm going to argue that the evidence points us mainly towards the financial classification.
And I believe that framing really misses the core of Razia's injury, the human element.
Okay, well, let me lay out my position. What defines this crime for me are the cold, hard financial mechanisms. It's textbook affinity fraud, really. Ghazala promised a completely unsustainable, specific return, £500 per month on just a £5,000 investment, plus this huge final payout after only a year. I mean, those first two £500 payments she actually made, they weren't a real business transaction, they were classic bait, just designed to build up a false sense of legitimacy. The fact she eventually fled overseas and had no actual business registration, it just confirms a premeditated scheme designed purely to steal financial security. The religious language, the Sharia compliance aspect, avoiding interest, that was a very effective method of access, sure. But the fundamental harm here is the theft of capital.
See, I come at it from a different angle. While the money, of course, is the quantifiable loss, the essence of this crime, for me, lies in the targeted exploitation of Razia's profound personal vulnerability. Ghazala Din saw Razia's severe disability, her physical pain. She saw the obvious financial distress, her husband Faisal caring for her, how tired they both were. She saw them needing basic things, like a second-hand recliner, struggling to pay the gas bill. And Ghazala used this intimate knowledge, complementing the children's Quran recitations, calling Razia's sister, to cultivate total trust, right there in the sanctuary of their own home. This goes so far beyond typical financial deception. It's a complete spiritual violation, leveraging what I'd call coercion by trust. As Razi herself put it, she came into my home, called me sister, quoted hadith, and lied through her teeth. That says it all, really.
That's a powerful way to put the moral injury, I grant you. Though I would frame the function of that trust differently. Look, Ghazala was ultimately seeking capital. The manipulation, however, deeply immoral, and it certainly was. It was a tailored and, yes, highly effective marketing strategy. It was applied to an inherently bogus investment structure. The scam success primarily relied on the promise of high, quick, Sharia-compliant money. So, the financial structure is the definition of the crime. The social tactic, the trust element, is merely the means, the tool used to secure the funds.
This wasn't just some disposable investment capital she could afford to lose. It represented, security, dignity. It was basically all they had left. You can't just separate the financial aspect from the fact it was extracted by weaponizing these deep community and spiritual bonds.
Okay, but we also have to acknowledge the systematic scope here. Ghazala's decision to flee overseas after collecting money from multiple women, not just Razia, but women from different communities like Bordsley Green and Sparkhill, targeting people who are already extremely vulnerable, like another woman with breast cancer, that evidences this wasn't just a one-off manipulation. It was a broad, systematic fraud enterprise designed for maximum capital extraction and, importantly, replication. The standardized fraudulent contract she used? That's the blueprint.
But the systematic nature doesn't negate the targeted violation. In fact, I'd argue it confirms a systematic strategy of identifying and leveraging acute, specific weakness. For Razia, the harm was intensely personal, profoundly specific. Ghazala didn't just target a vague, vulnerable demographic. As the material states, she saw their home, their pain, their struggle, and she still took from them, exploiting that desperate need for basic comfort, for relief, like the recliner. That is the defining moral evil here. And it really highlights the profound inadequacy of viewing this solely as a financial transaction, which is exactly what the police response seems to have done.
She didn't force you, you gave it willingly. That response completely fails to grasp the coercion achieved through abusing that spiritual affinity.
Right. We certainly agree that this criminal act was simultaneously a systematic financial fraud and a profound ethical betrayal. The two aren't mutually exclusive, of course, but maybe for the purposes of achieving effective justice, and crucially, prevention of similar schemes, we have to prioritize identifying the repeatable, scalable fraudulent financial structure. That's what allowed for the mass replication in her eventual evasion.
And yet I maintain that understanding the sheer depth of the targeted exploitation, the weaponization of community and spiritual identity, is absolutely crucial. It's crucial to grasping the true scope of Razia's personal injury, an injury that, as we've seen, purely financial definitions just fail to capture, especially in those moments when she desperately needed the system to understand and deliver justice.
It really underscores the complexity, doesn't it? Crimes that weaponize trust and faith specifically for financial gain, they challenge simple classification. We have to hold both perspectives in tension, I think, leaving the listener perhaps to consider which classification, financial fraud or ethical betrayal, best captures the core nature and the ultimate harm of Ghazala Din's actions in this case.